My name is Dr. Tony with Essentials of Life Chiropractic. And on behalf of our entire team here, I want to say thank you for choosing us to be your chiropractic team. We created this video series just for you to help you get the absolute most out of your chiropractic care. See, we believe that your body is one of your greatest gifts. And we also believe that your health is one of your greatest assets. Now I want to encourage you to pull out the 3 handouts that you should have received from our front desk along with the link to these videos. The top one is our team bios. See, here at Essentials of Life Chiropractic, we are a mission-centered office. We have a mission to help families get well and stay well. The next handout is the diagram that we're going to be filling out shortly here through the rest of this video. And then the third handout is the nerve chart that we'll be referencing while we're filling in the blueprint. Okay, let's start filling in our diagram. What we're going to do is on your blueprint for optimal health, on the right side of the sheet, next to where the box is, I want you to write the word body. That box is going to represent how your body works. Now let's start talking about a few different pieces of the body. First, the heart. The heart is a vital organ. As you know, it pumps blood, and blood carries oxygen and nutrients to all the different parts of our body that helps our body heal. Now, for our bodies to be healthy, that heart has to pump at the right rate and the right pressure and the right volume every second of every day, which is a really big task. The next thing I want to talk about is the kidneys. So kidneys are there to filter toxins out of the bloodstream, which is also a very vital task. And you may not know this, but there's a little gland that sits on top of your kidneys, and that's called your adrenal gland. Now, the adrenal glands make a couple different hormones, 2 of which are adrenaline and cortisol. And the reason I mention those is those 2 hormones play a role in our energy. So for our bodies to have a sustained amount of energy through the day and to be able to rest your head and sleep comfortably and peacefully on the pillow at night, those glands have to be putting just the right amount of those hormones into the body at just the right time. If they're not doing that, you can have highs and lows in your energies, you can have sleep-wake disruptions. So those are key. Even though they're a small gland, they're very key in your overall health and wellness. Now the next thing I want to mention is your muscles. Now most people think muscles are just there for strength. Muscles are actually there for movement, for us to do stuff. Do stuff at home, do stuff at work, do stuff at play. Anything that requires your body to move, even if you're making notes and writing with the pen right now, muscles are there moving your hand. And so muscles play a role in the movement of these bodies of ours. Now last but not least is this immune system. Now I represent that with a shield because of what it does. The immune system is there to protect you against things like viruses and bacteria and these things that could be harmful to our bodies at any point in time. Now I just mentioned a handful of things here. As you know, there's so many more things that are going on in the body every single second of the day. And if you study the body long enough, eventually you're going to come to this question in your head of what's controlling all this? Well, the answer to that is the brain. Write the brain in that circle up top. From now on, I want you to think about your brain as the control tower that controls everything that happens in your body. It's there to monitor, control, and coordinate every single function of your body. And the way it does it is through something called the nervous system. So you can see on the top of the brain, that line that comes down here, it represents the spinal cord. Now, if we look at the actual spine, the brain sits up top here in the skull. The spinal cord connects to the base of the brain, which goes down the middle of the spine. And in between the bones in the spine, if I turn this to the side, you can see all these different nerves that branch off that spinal cord, go into the body, and connect to all those different organs that we mentioned here, as well as every other organ and muscle and tissue in your body. So I encourage you to draw those little lines from the spinal cord over to those other organs. And you have just drawn the most powerful system in your body, which is the nervous system. Now let's take a closer look at this. I want you to turn to that third sheet, which is the nerve chart, which is a very cool sheet. Look in those first 2 columns with the bullet points on there. Do you see where everything's connected? It's a big chart. All I want you to see on this chart is where everything is connected to all the different segments and levels of the body, just to simply get an appreciation for how the brain is controlling all these different parts of your body. Okay, let's go back to our diagram here. Now, when all of these nerve pathways from top to bottom on the spine are nice and clear, and you can see this, if I were to take a couple bones out of the spine here, this is a cool little model, let me show you this. So you have a spinal cord running down the middle, you have nerves that come out in between the bones of the spine. When these nerve pathways are nice and clear like this, the brain can talk to all the different parts in the body. It can monitor, control, coordinate. Think of these nerves as 2-way streets. It's receiving messages from them, and the brain's processing and sending messages back down the spinal cord and out. So when these nerve channels are all nice and clear, your body has potential for proper function, meaning it's working the way it's supposed to. Now that's talking about us as adults. If anyone has kids or knows kids under the age of 18, well, guess what? Those nerves are also controlling how these bodies are developing as well. When our bodies are functioning right and developing right, we have what's called ease. Now you can't even say that without smiling, right? Ease is where the body does what it needs to do and has some energy left over to do more. And that's actually how you define the word health. And when our bodies are functioning right and developing right, and we have ease and we have health, how do you think you generally feel? Pretty darn good, right? Now, let me just ask you a question here. Looking at this diagram, does this make sense? Most people will say yes, and I agree too, it makes sense. The next question I have, and I'll say this as well, I've been studying this human body for over a couple decades. This is how the body is created to work. This is health right here. But here's the next big question. How many people do you know whose bodies are functioning just like that? Oftentimes when we meet people, the answer is not many. And so what I want you to do right now, go back to that third sheet we have. Go back to that nerve chart. See, because when I said that, you may have been, maybe even when I showed you the diagram, you may have been thinking, I understand that this is how the body works, but there are people in my household, my neighbors, my coworkers, people at church, who are struggling with their health. And I would say, that's a big thing in our culture. Yes, a lot of people are struggling with their health and well-being. So as you can see on that third sheet, that nerve chart, now I want you to go over to the far right 2 columns. Do you see the check boxes there? Sometimes when I get a chance to go speak in public, I'll bring these sheets with me and I'll actually have people start on that side of the sheet. And I'll have them do what I call my 2-minute household health drill. What I encourage you to do is just let your eyes scan down that list. But what I would do on those meetings is say, put a check next to any of those boxes that's affected you or your family in the last 5 years. Now let me just ask you, if we were to collect those sheets, how many times did you ever think those sheets would be blank? I've done it long enough to know, not many. That's a problem. See, these are things people in our society and our culture are struggling with. And maybe even you and someone in your household are struggling with too. And most people are looking for answers. And here's where I want to share where some major things can go wrong. And I promise you, most people have no idea this is even a thing. Let's go back to that diagram. Now, this is how the body is designed to work. But we have to take this body and we have to put it out into that real world out there that we live in. And that real world we live in has something called stress in it, doesn't it? Yep, stress. And stress isn't just mental. It's emotional, environmental, chemical, physical. All these different stresses that these bodies of ours have to function in, have to go into the world in. What system of the body do you think has to process all that stress? The answer is right here. It's the nervous system. And what can happen over time, if I go back to this, what can happen over time is this nervous system of yours, of mine, of anybody's body, it can get overloaded with stress. And then things can start to shift and move and irritate the nerves that pass through there. This is something called subluxation. It's a big fancy chiropractic term that basically means nerve disturbance, nerve interference. And when that's there, it cuts off the communication between the brain and the body. The body can't get the messages from the brain as well as it can. And what can happen then is these different parts of the body, the organs, the muscles, the tissues, are not then going to be able to function the way they're supposed to. So our body's going into a state of dysfunction, meaning it's not working the way it's supposed to. And that can happen to any of us at any age, by the way. If our bodies aren't in a state of function, are they going to be in a state of ease? No. Our bodies enter into something called dis-ease, meaning it's not working the way it's supposed to. And obviously, health is gone. And over time, if that dis-ease process stays there, we start experiencing things called symptoms. And now when you take a look at that third sheet, you can start to see where some of those things could be coming from. Well, now that we understand how the body works and what some of these body signals are that are coming from our body, let's jump into the next video and talk about the 3 essentials for optimal health and keeping our bodies functioning at their absolute best.